2021 forward slash 09 forward slash CE dash black dash mental dash health. All right. All right. So let's go ahead and jump right on into this. So I want to read this for you. It says, being a black man in America means being my brother's keeper. Being a black man in America means being my brother's keeper while keeping a distance from my brother because I don't trust him further than I can see him. It's believing the cops don't care about you. It's learning how not to doubt yourself because when you're born, everyone else already does. That is a quote that comes our way from poet Prentice Powell. It was written following the fatal police shooting of Michael Brown in Ferguson, in Missouri, 2014. In 2014. So the year 2020 was a year of reckoning about many things, but one central theme centered on police brutality toward black men, sparked by the murder of George Floyd under a white officer's knee. Four psychologists who work with, study, and support black men, that incident and the resulting protests were an added call to find better, more effective ways of promoting black men's mental health. That comes your way from Howard C. Stevenson, PhD, Director of Racial Empowerment Collaborative at the University of Pennsylvania, and a national expert on helping people of color address and heal from racism. Okay? All right. So he goes on to say, we should place less emphasis on whether black men are resistant to therapy and more on understanding the context in which they already feel comfortable about talking about their feelings and trauma. If a black man is able to find a treatment that is culturally responsive, that he understands, and that he embraces the uniqueness of his difference, or that embraces rather the uniqueness of his difference, he is more likely to use that service. All right, so essentially what he's saying there is if we can find a path, an avenue that helps us in our mental health battles or in our mental health fight, then we're more likely to use that, something that's culturally relevant to us, something that we can understand, something that doesn't seem like it's just a cookie cutter thing that like if it's something uniquely for us, we're generally, we can handle that. We're pretty good with that. But anyhow, let's continue on. It says there is a long way to go toward making such mental health care universals. Stevenson and others say, but psychologists are crafting several promising interventions that addresses issues that black men face besides adaptations of individual therapy. These include common programs in barbershops and other local venues, outreach through technology and social media, and national networks devoted to facilitating black men's mental health and well-being. The more that systems, programs, and providers find culturally relevant ways to foster black men's mental health, including directly addressing racial trauma and its effects, the more society will benefit. That was added by Wisdom Powell, PhD, an associate professor at the a professor of psychiatry at the University of Connecticut and director of the university's health disparities issues. Now, interventions should not be just about healing and restoring black men, though that would be enough, she said. We also need to think about how much talent we are hemorrhaging by not providing black men with the proper support. Think of all the innovators, entrepreneurs, scientists, and physicians there would be if black men weren't being killed with impunity by police officers. And if we were creating spaces for them to heal, grow, and thrive. All right. The website continues and it goes on for a while, but there are so many different things in this website that I want to hit on that if I took time to read it, we'd be here until well into the 12 o'clock hour. But one of the things that is so very important is finding or the building blocks for intervention. All right. So one of the things we have to address masculine norms. All right. Black men are even more likely than white men to endorse aspects of traditional masculine ideology, such as the need to act tough and in control and to avoid emotional expression. Research finds, according to Baron K. Rogers, a psychology doctoral student at the University of Akron in Ohio. That is because they have additional reasons beyond those of white men to assume these stances, namely to stave off societal pressures and oppression. All right. The idea that racial factors intersect with unhealthy masculinity norms is also highlighted in the book Cool Pose, The Dilemmas of Black Manhood in America. And it was released by Touchstone in 1993 by psychologist Richard Majors, PhD, and sociologist Janet Mancini Bilson, PhD. They argue that poor, urban black men sometimes assume the stance of aloof swagger to defend against harsh realities and racism they encounter in daily life, which wears away their physical and mental health. All right. So that's one of the things that's important. These are some of the building blocks of interventions. Again, I won't read all of them, but I do want to share some of them. So the first, again, is addressing masculine norms. The second is addressing racism within itself. So we have masculine norms, which are, oh man, well, men don't cry, men don't do this, all that kind of stuff. But then there are racial things where black men, we can't show weakness because, all the, or so much in there. We're always on guard because I tell you, I wish I had so much time. We'll have to deal with this again next week. We'll have two men-to-men segments on man-to-man segments on next week. Addressing the third one is addressing within group differences. So within the group of black men, we all have differences, and you have to be able to address those. And we'll talk some about that next week. Incorporating group work. Working with black men in group formats can also be a powerful intervention, thanks to the sense of camaraderie that these groups foster. Seeing that other men have similar difficulties can make care less stigmatizing. All right, so there's so many different issues there to address. All right, then we have to deal with the expanding the treatment lens and how we have to go beyond just conventional sitting in a counselor's office talking to somebody, but we've got to go beyond that. And so we'll deal with that on next week because I'm about out of time. But I tell you, these are all things that are so very important, and men's mental health, but in particularly, black men's mental health is so very important. Even when I go back and I look at, I just would leave it at men, but let me just say black people's mental health, period, is so very important. When I go back and I look at that story, every time I look at that story about that young lady, Miss Brianna, who was murdered by the police and you can call it how you want, but that's how I call it. Her parents called because she had was having a mental health episode. They thought, or they were hoping the ambulance would come out, but the sheriff's department came out, and she was having a mental health episode. And the more I look at that, the more I realize that we need programs and strategies in place that address the issues of the Black and African American, the brown people of our city and of this country. We need programs that address our issues that are formulated by us and for us. I'll be honest, I feel as though it is time out for, you know, people of not color or white people. I don't know how to say that properly without getting in any kind of trouble for it. So I'll just say, white people telling black folks this is how you need to get help. It's great that we have advocates in other communities. But we as African Americans need to take enough of interest in ourselves and in our own mental health that we get with some black psychologists, some black PhDs, and we start to develop programs by subjecting ourselves to counseling, by going through different tests and things, and not always allowing them just to prescribe, this pill and this medication, this thing and that thing. But we've got to find therapies and things that work for us more than just putting us on pills and sticking us in jail cells and putting us in, hospitals and sanitariums and all that. We've got to be advocates of our own health, which means that we who have family members or people who have mental health issues in our lives cannot afford to be silent any longer. But we've got to learn how to speak up, speak out, so that those who are hurting can get help that they need, but not only just help that they need, tailor-made help directly for them, their age, their race, you know what I mean? Like, that's what we need, and that's what this is all about. And I know I did a bunch of reading today, which may not have been as interesting to some folks, but I have to get the general information out before I can start to let my passions out, right? You've got to have, passion is good, but passion without information and understanding is not enough. The Bible tells us to get wisdom, get understanding, and all thy getting, get an understanding, right? And it tells us that wisdom is the principal thing. So first, I've got to give you the wisdom, the knowledge, the understanding. Then I can give you the passion so that then we can see the change that we need to happen in our communities, all right? So as we deal with men's mental health, in particular black men's mental health here, on Man to Man, I want to encourage us. I have to encourage us to make sure that we are that we get the help that we need, and that we look for somebody who can help us, who we feel comfortable with. That's the key. If you don't feel comfortable with this person, it's not going to work for you. You're not going to stick with it. So find somebody who you can be comfortable with. All right. All right. I can go on and on about this because these are issues that are near and dear to my heart. These are issues that I am concerned about. These are things that I think are so very important that are missing in our community is the dealing with mental health. We've got to get our mental health under control. All right. Well, friends, real quickly, we're going to go ahead and jump into all the news you absolutely can use, and then I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. Real quickly, it's 79 degrees outside. The wind is blowing east-northeast at about 5 miles per hour. Although it's 79, it feels more like 82. It's cloudy and overcast outside. Your high for today is 88. Your low for today is 74. And you've got a 40% chance for some late afternoon storms. Then on tomorrow, you've got a high of 88, a low of 75, with a 40% chance for some scattered thunderstorms. Then on Sunday, you've got a high of 88, a low of 74, with again a 40% chance for some scattered thunderstorms. That is your weather update. And, as I do every year about this time, I've got to update you real quickly on what's going on out in the Atlantic. I told you that we had two disturbances that were out in the Atlantic. One was right on the westernmost coast of Africa. The other one had not made its way, anywhere. Well, now looking at both of those disturbances, all right. So the first one, it has come off of the coast of Africa, and now it is several hundred miles west of the Cabo Verde Islands, and it is producing a large area of disorganized showers and thunderstorms. And its environmental conditions should support some gradual development of this system early next week while it moves westward, all right, across the eastern and central tropical Atlantics. And it's moving about 10 to 15 miles per hour. So that's one we'll be keeping an eye on early next week because it has the potential to possibly do something or become something. We just don't know. But right now it's just a tropical wave. So it's not anything major to be concerned of as of right now. But it is something that we will just be watching over the next few days. Now, there is also a trough of low pressure that is located on the eastern Caribbean Sea, producing a minimal shower and thunderstorm activity. This system is expected to move westward at about 15 miles per hour during the next several days, and environmental conditions could become more conducive for slow development by early next week when it moves across the central and western Caribbean Sea. This one has a 20% chance of developing into something more serious over the next 5 days, but that's 5 days. So we'll keep an eye on both of those. I'll let you know what they're going to do starting on Monday. But as I told you, if there's anything that's going to happen, anything that's going to come our way, I will keep you posted. You'll hear about it here on 93.5 KPPM. Well, friends, it is about that time for me to go ahead and get out of here. All right. But before I get out of here, I've got a minute left. So let me just say, if you are celebrating your birthday or your anniversary this week, first, if you're celebrating your birthday this week, let me go ahead and give you your birthday shout out. Here is your birthday shout out.